Hello friends, and welcome to another video. I'm Jeanette with Vival Vintage Designs. Today I'm going to answer a few questions about working on tile with alcohol ink. I get asked these questions very often, so I figured I would make one video and explain everything that I can. So I get asked very often, how do I seal alcohol ink on tile? So I use about 2 or 3 coats of the Kamar varnish first, and I let it dry maybe an hour or 2, sometimes overnight, in between coats. And you have to use light coats. Make sure you shake the can really well and that your nozzle is clean so that you get a nice smooth coat over it. Then once that's finished, I will add about 2 coats of the Kamar UV protection. When you're working with alcohol ink, you have to seal it with UV protection because it will fade after time unless you do that. So here I have a couple of tiles to show you what I do, to show you the difference between these finishes. So this one is unsealed, and it has not faded. It's been in a box in the dark, so it's fine. I usually don't seal either my artwork with alcohol ink, whether it's on photo paper or on tile, unless it's being sold, being hung in my home, or given as a gift. I think it's a waste of product if you seal them, but you're not doing anything with them. So I reserve my product for gifts, personal use, hanging it in my house or selling them. So this one again is not sealed, and there's a little shine on it, but that's just the alcohol ink. This one here is sealed with the Kamar varnish and the UV protection. And this was one of the first ones that I ever made. This is about maybe 4 or 5 years old, maybe about 4 years old. And you can see it's not faded at all because it's been protected. And then this one here was one of my first tries using resin, and it's, I don't know that you can catch the light, but it's really shiny and it's well protected. This was about 4 years ago also, and you can use this one as a coaster, you can use it as a trivet, as long as you don't put anything fresh out of the oven on this. Make sure if you resin over them that you check to see the heat resistance, the amount of heat resistance in the resin that you're using. And I also got asked how I finish the edge of the tile because that looks really ugly. So I'm going to show you real quick what I would do. And I find this the easiest thing to do. I use Posca pens. So I take my Posca pen and I just run it along the side, and I have pens with a larger nib. But you can just run it along the side of the tile and finish it off. You can use any color you want. You can also use acrylic paint, anything you have on hand. Just make sure that you seal it as well when you seal your tile so that it stays nice. But you can see this is really easy, and it just finishes it off, and it looks nice, and you can't see it in the front because you're just doing it on the side. So it's nice to choose a color that coordinates with the colors that you've used in the tile. Okay, so now another question that I am asked is, how do I display the tiles in my home? Do you need to frame them? And I don't like framing them. I have frames for them that I purchased and that I just use E6000, and I put some drops on here of the E6000 and I glue it on top of this frame that I have. And that looks nice, but I don't display them like that in my house. What I do is I have a bunch of these little stands, and I buy them in bulk like this because when I used to sell the tiles, I would include one of these little stands in it, an easel. But this is pretty ugly. So what I do is I embellish them and I make them pretty. So you can display your tile on there anywhere you like in your home. And this particular size is good for these smaller tiles. You can even put a round tile on it and it still looks pretty. And then you can also use these larger tiles. It holds them perfectly. So that way you can change them out. That was my thought process. I can change these out very easily because they're not framed. It's just on an easel. So I'm also going to show you how I embellish these easels to make them go from this to this. This is so much prettier. So these easels require a little bit of sanding before you paint them. So just take a little sandpaper and run it across. It doesn't take much effort, just a little sandpaper like this, just to smooth it out a little bit, because if you run your finger over it, you can feel how rough it is. And once you're done sanding it, you can use, where did it go? I just had it. Here it is. I like these microfiber towels, and I just run it across and clean it off. And now when I run my finger over it, it's much smoother. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that I made with paper clay or air dry clay. I have these molds, and you can get these on Amazon. They're really not that expensive, and they're fantastic, reusable. So here I have these. I made these a while ago when I was making this. This was just a block of wood that I took and I embellished it, and I added these little hooks so that you can use it to hang your keys by your front door. I also made a larger one, and again with the little hooks on it so you can hang your keys by the door. And all I did was push some paper clay. This particular brand is a paper clay, and you can see when you pull it out how detailed these are. Let me see if I can get this to focus. They're very, very detailed. And all you have to do is just glue them. Where did I get this one from? Here's a larger one that I did, and you can see these are fantastic. They're very, very lightweight. Again, I used paper clay for these, but today we're going to use a little air dry clay. I want to see if this works equally as well. So we're going to embellish this one. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to push our clay into the mold. And you don't need a lot for this particular mold that I'm using, so I'm hoping this works well. And you can do this with anything. If you have an old frame that you don't like, you can use one of these molds to embellish it and make it nice by adding a little molding to it. Let's see, is that going to be big enough? Just about. So you have to make sure that you push the clay in there really well, because you want to get all those details. And then I'm going to use this scraper to remove the excess clay. You don't need all of that. And you want it to be smooth, so when you adhere it to the easel, it stays nicely. I like to do this with paper clay best, but I don't happen to have any. So today we're going to use just the DOS air dry clay. Now this clay is a little bit dry, that's why I'm having such trouble with it, but if you're using a fresh container or a fresh bag of the air dry clay, you should not have these problems. So now I'm just removing the top layer, making sure that it's nice and smooth so that it'll adhere nicely. And while it's still wet, now you can let this dry like I did these pieces here. I let them dry. I just wanted to make them ahead of time. But today we're going to try and remove this while it is still wet. And hopefully it won't stick. Usually you can brush a little spray cornstarch in there so that it releases easier, but of course I did not do that. So here we are. This actually worked out pretty well. So now you want to take this and you want to adhere it to the easel. And what I use is just wood glue, and this is what I've used for everything. Now I have a bunch of these molds because back in the day I used to refinish furniture, and I used to add these molds to the furniture to make it look really nice. I sold so much of that furniture, but it just got really difficult for me to move the pieces by myself, and I had to stop doing that. So, all right, let's add a little bit of glue on here. Just using an old brush, and I'm going to add a layer of glue. Oops. And then we're going to add our embellishment. And now this will shrink, so leave a little bit off the edge unless you let it dry first. And then I'm going to use a blade to cut it off. I know I brought one out here. Here it is. So I am going to use the blade to cut it off. Like that, it's that easy. So now you let this sit, let it dry completely, let it dry overnight. Now once it's dry, then you can use some craft paint to paint it, like I did this one. And now what I'm going to do is I want to age it like I did this one. And for this one I used wax, but I can't find the dark wax. I don't know what I did with it. It may be upstairs. So I'm going to show you an easy way that you can do at home yourself. I have some craft paint here, and I am going to add it to my little cup here, and I have water in here as well. I think this is clogged. Yep, sure enough. So I'm going to add a little bit with my popsicle stick to the water. And I'm choosing a brown because that's the way I want to antique it. I want that brown to get into all those little crevices. And then we're going to wipe it away. So I'm just watering down the craft paint. And then I'm going to take a brush, an old brush. Let me see if I can find an old brush here. I have an old brush. I'm just going to take that paint and I'm going to put it down on the part that we made with the clay, like that. And you can do the rest of the frame, or rather easel, if you like, but since it's going to be covered with either a painting or a tile, it's not really necessary. I'm just going to do the parts that you can see. Make sure that you get it into all the little nooks and crannies. Like that. And then you can put this aside, and all you have to do is just take a paper towel and you can start to remove that paint. Like that. And you see how it sits in all those little nooks and crannies? That's what you want. Just want to remove it off the raised areas. And then just let it dry. And you know what? I think I might want to add a little bit of this to these parts here because they will show. So I'm just going to use the paper towel. I should use the brush and then use the paper towel to remove it because this part of the easel will show. So you get the idea. Put it on, use your paper towel to take it off, and it will stay in all the little nooks and crannies. You can do the whole thing. For the sake of time, I'm just going to leave it like this for now. I can finish this up another time. But once that dries, you'll have a really pretty easel to display paintings. I also put paintings on here. Let me show you. You can use it to display small paintings. This is a this was alcohol ink and acrylic paint. And it's resined over, but you can use it to display paintings as well. Well, I hope you found this information helpful and that you give this a try. It's a really nice way to step up your little cheap easels or any picture frame, anything at all. These molds and the paper clay or the air dry clay work really well for this. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you embellish your little easels also. Let me know if you have any questions about any of the information that I have discussed in this video. And check out the description box for links to the products used. Check out our Facebook group, Viebel Vintage Design Tutorials, where you can post your versions of the paintings and techniques learned on this channel. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your interaction with my channel lets YouTube know that you're enjoying my content, and it makes my videos available to more viewers. So thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.